very little. And I said, look, you really need to have space because what you're doing is quite adventurous. I said that way. And I said, have some more space and everything will be fine and we'll look after you and all the rest. So this is one-to-one marketing, right? Segmentation, because I understood what his situation was. And then he says, oh, by the way, my son is gluten-free and lactose-free. If I have one of the two, that's okay. We can manage. Both of them, oh my God, I need your chef. I need the chef to be with you. Because lactose-free and gluten-free, it's a killer. Anyway, they had a fantastic time. Nick became a friend for life. You saved my life. I said, I know, Nick, I've been there before. But this is exactly what we're talking about on segmentation. It's exactly what we're talking about, understanding the situation in depth, understanding context, and do context-based marketing. Okay. All right, I think I'll give you a break here. Should I give them a break? Yeah, I'll give you a break and then we'll have Alastair to come and talk to you about what you're doing. Alastair is fantastic. He's very experienced. Okay, have a break. And he has written most of the tourist marketing books that you guys read. And he just completed, what's the name of the last one?
Tourism Marketing in the Age of the Consumer.
Aha, Tourism Marketing in the Age of the Consumer. That's why I kept you for the consumer class. So you're going to entertain them in the consumer side. So Alastair is currently in Shanghai, correct?
Actually, I'm in Anqing at the moment, Anhui province.
Aha, okay. You keep moving.
Yeah, we have another place there. So when I have to escape and have a little quiet for my writing, I come to Anqing.
Lovely.
Yeah.
It's your hometown. Ah, you've got a cousin here. Very good.
Oh, Laoshang. Laoshang.
Okay. People are surprised how good Alastair speaks Chinese. Wonderful. Okay. Alastair, the class is yours.
Yeah, I'm going to try and share my screen here. And oh, I was looking at this earlier and I need to get back to the beginning.
Perfect. You look good.
Yeah, I've got my screen up from the World Tourism Day in Sarawak.
I think what you would like to do is to put that on full screen because we see all the flag. Yeah, here we go.
Yep, there we go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And do you want me to start, Professor Buhalis?
Yes, please.
And you can hear me fine?
Perfect.
Ni Tingwama class? Tingwama? Okay, I think I've been introduced adequately, and so I'm very happy to be here with you this evening to talk about customer relationship marketing and customer loyalty. So it's loyalty and relationship marketing. Sometimes we call it customer relationship management, and I have that in some of my slides here. And again, I'm Professor Alastair Morrison, and two photographs up here. One I think you'll recognize very well. It's Kowloon in your great university there. And I have visited your university, although I don't get invited very often. I wish I was invited more. I'm trying to get my screen corrected a little bit here. And the bottom photograph is, can you hear me okay? And you can see the screen, Dimitri?
Yeah, all good, all good.
All good so far, okay. The bottom photograph is of the University of Greenwich, or if you're American, you probably would say Greenwich. But anyway, we will excuse the Americans for a moment. And it's a very famous place, actually. And I think, although Professor Buhalis may not agree, I think it's probably the most beautiful university campus in the United Kingdom. I
I
don't know if
love
you,
and what you may not know is I used to be external examiner there for years.
I knew you were a good guy. I just knew you were great. But anyway, just to give you a little bit of directions here, in the foreground is the Royal Greenwich Park, which is a very beautiful park and a very large park. The white building in the middle is the Queen's Building. Off to the left of that, as you look at it, is the National Maritime Museum. And then immediately behind that, you see kind of two domes with kind of green on them. That's our campus. And it's the old Royal Navy College. So it's been 150 years, 200 years, designed by Sir Christopher Wren. You don't see in the picture the River Thames, but behind the River Thames in the background is Canary Wharf. And any of the boys or the girls there like football? Yeah. Yeah.
Football? No,
Anyone like football?
no.
No, no one likes football. Okay, that's good. I'm leaving then because I love football. Probably some Manchester United fans there. I'm not a big fan of Manchester United myself. I'm a Chelsea fan, and why I'm saying that is it's quite a famous area, not just for history and culture, but it's quite famous for football. Very close to Greenwich here is the Woolwich Barracks, and they have a gunnery there, and that's where the Arsenal football team was begun. That's where they began because of the gunnery. And it's also very close to where Millwall, there in the Isle of Dogs across the river there, and also nearby is Charlton Athletic play. So anyway, I'm not here to talk about football, although I could talk about football probably more than I could talk about the topic. But anyway, let's begin. Yes, this is from the topic and the material I'm drawing from is from Tourism Marketing in the Age of the Consumer. It's a book I've just finished. Topic again is customer relationship marketing. And this is going to be published it's actually going to be published not until March 2022, but it is in production at the moment. Now, I want to give you a bit of an outline here. First of all, I want to ask you and get this going with a little bit of participation. That's very important to me. I was taught to be a teacher, professor in the United States and at Purdue University. And we always were very participative there. So it's very important for me to get you to not only listen, but also to interact with me. And I know that Professor Buhalis is very good at that. Don't mind if I call you Dimitri or Demetrius. Is that okay? Up to me, okay. So we'll think about who are our customers. Since it's customer relationship marketing, we have to know who our customers are. And then I have a little saying called mine, be mine, and stay mine. It's kind of like relationships in couples. And relationship marketing is like that. It's a question of mine, be mine, and stay mine. So 3 parts to that. And then I'll talk about relationship marketing, the traditional relationship marketing, and I'll call that CRM 1 because there's a CRM 2. Then I'll talk about personalization. And I'm using the American spelling here for personalization. And it's a very important aspect to CRM 1 and CRM 2. Personalization is kind of the core of customer relationship marketing. I'll talk very briefly about database or database and direct marketing, 2 aligned concepts. And then I'll talk very little, but it'd be very important. I think that Professor Buhalis will talk about this in some detail during the class. eCRM, also called social CRM or CRM2. And so that's the kind of era of CRM we're in at the moment. And then I'll talk briefly about customer loyalty. And that's the second part of the presentation, really. And then I'll talk a little bit about some research that we've been doing in China. about casual dining and brand love in this case. So in some casual dining restaurants that we looked at there, some interesting findings related to value, loyalty, satisfaction, and loyalty. And then I'll talk a little bit more broadly about stakeholder relationship marketing. And I think that by the end of this class, you will have a broader view, I hope, of what CRM is in hospitality and tourism. And then we'll have a summary and some time for your Q&A. Professor Buhalis, I have 30 minutes, is that correct?
Yep.
Only 30 minutes.
Well, plus 10%.
Okay, all right, plus 3 minutes. Okay, now let's start with a very big question, and that is, who are our customers? Since we're talking about customer relationship marketing or customer relationship management, we have to know who those customers are as groups. And so let's think for a moment, and I want to hear you, if you can say to me or say to the professor there, who do you think the customers are of the Ritz-Carlton in Hong Kong?
That's my daily exercise. I'm getting to you.
Hi, Professor. So in the Ritz-Carlton, I believe they have a word is gentlemen or gentlewomen are their customers they are serving for.
Exactly. So their customers, you're saying, are their guests, correct?
Yes.
I'm correct. Okay, so your definition of customer is the guests in the hotel. All right, now let's move on to some other ones. There's a couple of restaurant chains in Hong Kong. I know this because I taught in Hong Kong for 5 to 6 years for the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow at Hong Kong University. A couple of chains called Fairwood and Café de Coral. Who are their customers?
Who knows them? Come decide.
Hi, Professor. I think maybe like student or people may have limited budget for the dinner. Yeah, thank you.
So people like students or people who are dining on a limited budget. So again, it's the guests, the customer. All right, try another one. How about Ocean Park?
Maybe domestic family or the regional tourist.
So tourists from Hong Kong and from mainland China, and some from abroad as well, from Macau as well, but and abroad, correct?
So 3 hours drive, basically 3 hours. People will go to Ocean Park for 2 hours drive, 3 hours drive.
Yeah, well, good for them.
Yeah, thank you.
What about the Hong Kong Tourist Board? A very good tourist board, very good DMO. Who are their customers?
Maybe some tour operator or tour agency.
So in this case, you're saying it's not necessarily the customers directly, it's the travel trade people, the tour operators, the travel agencies. Is that right? Is that what you said?
And the hoteliers.
And hotels. Okay, sure. Because they're trying to get people into those rooms and into those beds from the hotels for sure. Okay. Now, how about Cathay Pacific? Who are their customers?
Cathay Pacific, the airline. Me.
Surely know them.
Me. I'm their customer.
You're one of their customers. So am I. Marco Polo Club member.
They've got a very good business class.
Whoa,
An excellent lounge.
excellent. Yes, you're right. Who are their customers?
I
Hello,
think
Professor.
it's business traveler.
Maybe the travelers who are tend to travel from original place to another place.
Although so you're saying their customers are their passengers.
And also some people who are like to take big business trip and some or leisure, or leisure. Thank you.
Like Professor Buhalis, he spends half his life in the air, I think.
Some businessmen or office workers.
Businessmen, business persons, and office workers. Absolutely, they're all there. Okay. Now let me ask you this. What about Hong Kong International Airport? Who are their customers?
Since that is the airport, it should be some international traveler.
So it's the same as the airlines, right?
Guys, this is a tricky question. Be very careful with Alastair.
No tricks here, Demetrius. No tricks.
So regarding with the latest trend, because if I'm correct, Hong Kong International Airport they're making like a sky lounge out in the top. So I'm assuming like domestic tourists, travelers, because they're not making an airport right now. They're more making like a tourist place, if I'm correct.
Yeah, these are all good answers, and your first responses are that they are the guests, that the customers are the guests, the passengers, and so on. However, pardon me. Go ahead.
The customer will be the airlines because they rent the place, and then the airport provide a place for them and also some service for them.
That's a really good answer. I really appreciate your answer. That's very good. What's your name?
My name is Kate.
Kate, excellent, Kate. Also, in the same respect, the same regard, so are all the retailers and the restaurants that are in the airport as well. So why I wanted you to focus on this question was, it's a very big question, was that depending upon where these organizations are in tourism and hospitality, they may have different types of customers. They may have more than one group of customers. So CRM is not one-dimensional. It can be multi-dimensional based upon different groups of customers. We'll talk more about this as we go along. So yeah, when I first asked about Ritz-Carlton, you were drawn into that because obviously they're really good in service quality and they're really good in CRM. So yeah, so good start. Now, this is my little saying from the book, and I think it's kind of cute. Mine, be mine, and stay mine. What we're trying to do in relationship marketing is to find first, attract, and then retain customers. Find, attract, and retain. So it's like mining or mine, be mine, and stay mine. You get what I mean? So mine, be mine, and stay mine means finding, attracting, and keeping customers with a focus in customer relationship marketing. So I'm just going to move my little screen here so I can see this a little bit better. So the mining can be accomplished through mining big data sets or in other ways and more traditional ways. Being mine is inviting consumers to try out the hospitality, tourism, business, or destination. So that's getting them to try. And then staying mine is about retaining customers through customer relationship marketing. So it's all part of CRM. So I think this is a very good analogy. It's kind of like human relationships. You know, you want to find someone, you want them to be your boyfriend or girlfriend, and then you want them to stay yours. if you know what I mean. So it's a very good analogy, you know, and thank you for letting me use it. Now, let's talk about the brass tacks of this a little bit more. Traditional relationship marketing, CRM1, and this is attributed in 1983 to Leonard Berry in his publication, and he defines relationship marketing as attracting, maintaining, and enhancing customer relationships, just what I've just said there. So that's goes back to 1983, so we're talking about almost 40 years of this concept being around. I'm going to talk about China in a little while, mainland China, so keep that date in mind, 1983. Now, database marketing, which is allied with this, and this is the old database marketing, not what we're using the big data of today. That's the analytical side of CRM, where we use data or data and use that to find potential customers, to track them, and to stay in touch with them so we can retain them. Now, I think it's very, very important here. I use the English version, personalization in CRM. I think personalization is very core part of CRM. Treating customers as individuals, not as a crowd, not as a group. And so that involves managing the service encounters, as with Ritz-Carlton, which one of the students mentioned there. We are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen, and calling customers by using their names, either their surnames or their first names, if we can. That's very important there. Providing customer incentives, for example, like the frequent flyer, the frequent guest programs on hotels, providing these incentives for people to use the organization more. Providing special service options for our very best customers. Developing pricing strategies to encourage long-term use, because we want to retain these, particularly these very good customers. And so we want to develop pricing points where we can attract them and keep them with our business and keep them loyal. Talk about loyalty in a minute. And then very much important here, even more important today, is maintaining the customer databases. And what, in other words, what do they buy? When do they buy? What do they like? Sort of like the Amazon.com, which keeps a very detailed record of your purchases and then pushes ideas to you to purchase similar things in the future. And then communicating with customers through direct or specialized media. And so that's what we think of as the personalization. I'm going to increase this up a bit. Any questions for me from the professor or from the students? From Jerry?
I think you're clear. You're very clear.
Very clear. Okay, you know.
I think the one thing I need to say is that personalization is a form of segmentation.
Okay.
So if you can link segmentation with personalization, because I was just talking about segmentation early on.
Yeah, well, personalization is almost like creating one-to-one segmentation. And I think that's perhaps where you're coming from. Or providing specialized services, specialized incentives, options for different segments of the market. For example, the business traveler was mentioned, the holiday traveler. So there's a very close tie-in between market segmentation and CRM. That there should be, okay? And so we don't want to forget that. And so thank you for mentioning that, Professor. Okay. Now I run a small company in tourism consulting out of Shanghai, and I very much believe in personalization. And for example, I would never in my life Well, correct me if I'm wrong here, Demetrius. I would never send a bulk email. I will always personalize my email to the one person. The people who work for me, or with me, they have to answer the emails that they get within 12 hours, day or night. And if it's WeChat, Weixin, they have to answer them immediately. And these are part of the protocols that you introduce in organizations to make your communications personalized. So you treat the customer as an individual, not as a group, not as a mass. And so this was mentioned earlier, of course, Ritz-Carlton, I consider them to be the masters of the service encounter and also originally of total quality management. And this is a view from Ritz-Carlton, Hong Kong. And so when I read about services, service quality, service encounters, TQM, CRM, I always write about Ritz-Carlton because they're in the hotel industry, they're the best. Now, I'll talk briefly about database or database marketing. If you're coming from London, it's database. If you come from the US, it's database. Okay, so this means having large relational, that means databases that can be searched and sorted databases. And it's the foundation for this approach, having these databases. And these have gone through as computer software has changed and gotten better. This use of databases has changed, but this is the way it started. And it was the way to find the find part of CRM was using these databases and then to see who were your best customers. So the two concepts that are key to this are customer lifetime value, also called LTV, and then recency, frequency, monetary value, known as RFM. And so those are central. So which customers have been with us the longest and have purchased consistently? Which customers are the most recent buyers, the most frequent buyers, and spend the most with us? And so these were things that we could get out of the data within our databases. So data mining, it means searching databases to find customers or people who influence customers. So we also have the customers directly, and now we have the influencers, and those are, of course, extremely important now with social media and other types of information communication technologies. So using databases to mine, to search for customers, and that's the first part of CRM. And they're becoming more critical resources in the eCRM or CRM2, and that's due to the vast amounts of user-generated content and other big data that we have that's available to us in tourism and hospitality. So that's a quick overview of database marketing. Let's go into direct marketing. Well, direct marketing is what it says. It's what the label says. It's one-to-one marketing and communication between hospitality and tourism organizations and their past, present, and potential visitors or customers, we might call them. So one-to-one marketing and communication. We can do this through email. We can do it through the usual mail, postal services. We can do it by telephone. It's called telemarketing there. Or we can do it in person. And we certainly can do it through social media. And it usually comes with a call to action. In other words, you not only get in touch with the person, but you say, call us, send us an email, drop us a line, come by our office. So that you're looking for a response from the receiver. So that's a part of it. Now, unfortunately, this idea of direct marketing has also become associated with something called junk. And you all know about junk mail. It's a kind of a stigma that's often attached to direct marketing because it goes on. And I'm sure that you and the professor and Jerry, you get a lot of junk mail every day. I know I do. A lot of it, probably 50% of what I get is junk. Yeah, and because of that kind of stigma, Seth Godin came up with a concept called permission marketing in 1999, a long time ago. He said, this is a critical element in successful direct marketing, and it simply means asking the customers to give you permission to send them information or to share information about our services or products. So permission marketing with direct marketing is extremely important in order to keep people on side and satisfied with the company. Now, here, some customers do not welcome direct marketing. And here's a guy, a photo of an angry response to telemarketing. So I don't know, I don't want to say what that guy is saying, but he's very angry because he hasn't given people, if someone wants to come in here, he hasn't given people the permission, call them up and try and sell them services. So direct marketing has got this junk stigma, and we should ask people for permission before we approach them through direct marketing. Now, what goes into a CRM program? What should the components be? I mentioned personalization before, customer service, okay? Protocols, the customer service culture, the philosophy of the company, very well demonstrated by Ritz-Carlton Hotels, of course, but also by some of the other companies we mentioned, including Cathay Pacific. The human resource management, we have to have the staff to deliver that service at the levels and to fulfill the culture and the philosophy that we have. So human resource management and the training, orientation, the training and the motivation and the empowerment, all those things are really critical. Marketing, of course, marketing, the communications, the promotion, automation. Again, there's an assumption here that we're collecting data and databases, and we're using that database to find customers, to stay in touch with customers, to invite new customers, and then reporting. So reporting to our marketing department, to our frontline departments on these customers and who is important to us. So any questions so far? Any comments, Professor Buhalis?
No, I think you're right. You are very clear.
Okay.
You are.
Excuse me.
I think something that we need to say to the students is that CRM can be using technology or may not be using technology. So when you go to a restaurant and the lady there knows you and provides what you want and gives you a good table because recognize you as a good customer, it's equally important CRM as you are having a card and they know how much money you spend several times. So CRM normally we associate with using technology and data to collect information about customers, what they spend, their data, and to target them. But equally, it can be, it can happen by recognition. So you turn to a restaurant and the lady knows you and treats you preferentially. Okay.
Absolutely. And you know, that's we're talking about the traditional CRM there, Demetrius, and I hope the students get the point that there's two eras, there's two time periods of CRM, one which is more personalized, and then the second one, which is more based upon technology, and they both exist now.
And the differentiation is scale. So if you've got a restaurant where you've got a lady and she has got 100 customers per day, she'll be able to do it manually. But if you're Ritz-Carlton or if you're Marriott and you've got millions and millions of customers, you wouldn't be able to to know who they are. That's why you're using technology to actually have got the data and mine them.
Good. Yeah, absolutely agree with you, 100%. Now, I asked you the question about who are our customers in the beginning. It was a trick question, as the professor indicated. And we should think about B2C, B2B, and B2G relationships when we think about customer relationships. Now, so there are actually several customer relationships in hospitality and tourism marketing, not just one, not one-dimensional. First one, of course, is B2C, business to consumer, or business to customer. And that's what, when I asked you who are Ritz-Carltons, that's what you said. When I asked you Cathay Pacific, that's what you said, B2C. But we also have B2B, right? Ritz-Carlton has got a chain of suppliers. It's got relationships with travel agencies, tour operators, airlines, online OTAs. So it's got relationships to develop there and to maintain. So that's the B2B relationships. So you get the idea, perhaps, I hope you get the idea, because that's what I'm trying to say, is that this CRM is multi-layered, right? Then we've got B2G, business to government, right? In some cases, these companies and organizations in our industry, our sector, are also dealing with government, either in a policy way or in a business way. So B2G. And that's been very important during COVID, of course. And then there's also something I call B2S, business to stakeholder. And that's very important when you're the Hong Kong Tourism Board, because the Hong Kong Tourism Board serves all of Hong Kong, everybody, including the residents. So
Alastair, let's define stakeholders for a minute.
I will.
Everybody who benefits from our actions and everybody who is influenced by our actions. Absolutely. So stakeholders, anybody who is affected and influenced positively or negatively from our actions.
Absolutely, I agree with that definition. I have another definition coming up on that. But so again, and then there's also C2C, consumer to consumer. And, you know, so as a business, you might want to be looking at what the relationship among consumers is as well. So here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels or layers of potential relationships that you're managing or marketing. Now, that's just a picture here, of course, in the way of today. B2B involves bonding with others, and so that's very, very important in hospitality and tourism. I think it's one of the reasons why people like your Professor Buhalis and I were attracted to tourism, and you're attracted to hospitality and tourism, because there's some great opportunities to build relationships with other people in the industry, and not just with the consumers. So I think this bonding B2B is very, very important and very unique in hospitality and tourism. All right. Now, I said I'd be very quick on eCRM or social CRM. And this is Mariana Segala's approaches. And I'll just go through the 5, I think it's 5 of them here, and just say, she says, eCRM involves collecting, analyzing, and interpreting customer insights. So that means using the user-generated content, for example, in social media, to determine the characteristics and preferences of customers, either past, potential, and then monitoring and improving the performance of CRM. So monitoring customer feedback online and making continuous improvements to CRM programs. We can do that much better now online. Developing holistic and seamless personalized customer experiences. I won't read it all to you. Gamifying CRM and loyalty programs, putting game playing kind of elements into developing these relationships. You can do that online. And then nurturing community relationship management. So building brand communities of customers, and they interact not only with us, but they interact and engage with each other. So those are 5 approaches that Mariana Segala recommends. And she's one of the, of course, Professor Buhalis is the top scholar in the field, and she's one of the runner-ups, if I could say, Professor Buhalis.
Yep, she's young, 10 years younger than me, so.
Okay, and she's gone back to Greece now.
Yep.
Okay. And one of the things that customers want to do is they're multitasking these days, and particularly a younger generation, and they want to be able to use multiple devices simultaneously. Here you can see, probably it's a lady and she's on her iPhone there, and she's also on her laptop, and she's using them together, and maybe getting different information from different companies, maybe same information from different information from the same company, but they want to not just communicate through one device, they want to communicate through several devices. And I think that's something that we should really recognize. Okay, now, the professor asked me, let me ask you, do you have any questions, any arguments, any concerns about what I said so far?
Anything you'd like to ask, Alastair?
I know you're master students, so you should be a little bit more likely to ask questions.
I think you are very clear, Alastair.
All right, all right. Okay, well, one of the things that about CRM was Professor Buhalis asked me, because I've spent a lot of time, I've been living in China full-time almost since 2006. So I'm in my 15th year of living in China, and I love it actually. And then before that, I spent, I think, 15, 20 years doing projects in China, in tourism mainly. And he asked me, can you comment on the differences between mainland China and Western countries in terms of CRM? Was that right, Professor? That's what you asked me? Right, okay. I think you know the photograph in here, the Tiananmen Square in the Forbidden City, or the Gugong, as we say in Chinese. And I think we've got some people from mainland China in the group as well, right?
Yep.
Okay, good. So I'm not going to say anything that's controversial. I'm going to say what I believe, and let me start. I think everything starts at the top in terms of marketing and management, I'd have to say. And I'd have to say that the leadership styles are very different between mainland China and, I would say, Hong Kong and Macau, and then the rest of the world. I think the leadership styles are very different. Not so much necessarily in the tier 1 cities and the tier 2 cities, but when you get down to the tier 3, tier 4, and smaller cities and towns, it's a more marked difference, because the chain hotels, the Disneys and so on, they're using the leadership styles that are imported from other countries. But the Chinese leadership styles, I think I would have to say, are more command and control, top down, more military in that respect. So, whereas the international management styles are more participative, they're more delegation is good, they're more about empowerment, LMX, and all these things. So leadership styles are different. So that means, therefore, that CRM is different. Okay. I think that's a fair comment to begin with. In China, because of the way the system is, I think B2G, business to government relationships, are more important. So I think that's a given. I think the government's role is more pervasive in terms of even operating companies. So I think the B2G is more important. You notice I mentioned 1983. I mentioned 1983. That was when Leonard Berry came up with this idea of relationship marketing. And so I have to say that CRM1 is not as sophisticated in mainland China. And that's because the great opening up in China only began in 1978 with Deng Xiaoping. And so China has had less time to become more sophisticated in marketing and management in general. So I think that that's just a disadvantage in timing compared to Western companies. This is a feeling, this is a feeling, that, I haven't proven this. I think the product trust is lower in mainland China. I think that people are more skeptical about organizations that want to sell them services and products, and that would include in hospitality and tourism. The Western consumer is a little bit more trustful, but not much more. And so I think the product trust is a bit lower. I think deals, financial deals, here, are more important, and product deals are more important in mainland China than in the West. And I think here is a good one. I think that eCRM is perhaps more sophisticated in mainland China. That despite the late start in terms of CRM1, I think that I see perhaps more excellence in CRM2 in China, and more sophisticated systems of working with databases and big data. So those are my 6 observations. Any questions or any arguments but any concerns?
I think one of the key issues in China is the use of apps on with WhatsApp, and Alipay and the online payments, because the online payment has progressed so much that you've got much more electronic relationships already with Chinese consumers, which you do not necessarily have in the West.
Absolutely agree with you. Way ahead of the West in terms of payless. That kind of purchasing, way ahead.
And I see the apps as far as offers are concerned, because everybody is using WhatsApp and the micro apps. I see that they are much more involved with consumers, which you don't necessarily have in the West. So in the West, you go around, you pay with a credit card, you move on. But because you are ordering everything. So last time, I don't remember if we were together, Alastair, but I was in China, I couldn't order food because I went there and the restaurant had the QR code on the table. You'll pick up the QR code, then you'll order on the smartphone, you'll pay on Alibaba or Alipay or WhatsApp Pay, and the food will arrive. So it was kind of contactless, if you like, and this 3 years ago. So the waitress comes along and she's doing this. I said, can I eat, please? I was quite hungry. And he said, yeah, scan the code. And I scanned the code, but of course it comes back all in Chinese, so I cannot read it. And I cannot pay for it. But she was a very nice girl, a really, really good girl. So I said here, look, she couldn't speak English, so that was a problem. I said, look, I need to eat. So come with me. So I went around the table, Alastair, you know how you do this. I said, 1, 2. 1.
Yeah.
So what she did is, and then said, okay, how do I order? I said, your mobile phone. So she got her mobile phone. She pretended to be the customer. She scanned it for me, ordered for me, pretended I was on my table, and I gave her a good tip. So I gave her cash and a good tip. But I look like a villager coming from nowhere, with no technology. And she was so sophisticated. And I called my friend afterwards and I was crying. I said, you know what? I went to China and these guys are so advanced. And, you know, I'm the professor of e-tourism. I couldn't eat. I said, don't worry, you managed at the end. You're an old guy, you know how to deal with these things. Okay, I've done it. But
Yeah.
because of that, I think the ECRM is so much advanced. And the other thing is that, but what I don't like in China, from what I understand, is that they constantly targeting you with offers. That too much pressure, buy this, get that. And then I've been out for a couple of weeks in Hong Kong, and they've got the most complicated kind of things. They say, you've got a rebate. If you do that and you do that, and you stand in one feet and you touch your head, you're gonna get 3% discount. Please give me a break. Yeah, give me a price, I'll pay it, okay? But they make it so complicated that you know, and it's constant. You know, I downloaded the Key 11 application. I get twice a day messages on the Key 11, do that and do that, but I don't understand what they would like me to do because it's not straightforward. Is that me being stupid or is that everybody saying?
Okay.
Oh, it's me. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I tend to let my wife do these transactions here. She's Chinese. So
I told them the tourist marketing is all about women making decisions. We established that.
Absolutely. What else? Let's just talk a little bit about customer loyalty here, and because that's the second part. Yeah, I think this is a very good definition. There are many models, many definitions of this concept. But this is behavior characterized by a positive buying pattern during an extended period of time, measured by repeat purchases, frequency of purchase. Remember I mentioned that, RFM, the wallet share, and other indicators, and driven by positive attitudes towards the company and its products and services, Van Looy et al. 2003. So that's a very good definition. As I say, there's tons and tons. I think you know what it is, basically. There's tons and tons of models. This is one of the models where you've got loyalty in terms of retention on one axis and then satisfaction on the other, and going from being a terrorist for the company, not a very good term, to being an apostle, and putting across the ideas. And here we have a zone of defection, a zone of indifference, and a zone of affection. So obviously we want to move people into that zone of affection where their loyalty, we retain them for a long period of time, and they are very satisfied or very satisfied, hopefully very satisfied with the service that we've provided. And so this is a very well-known model, and it just gives you an idea of why it's so important to have loyal customers. And that's just a very brief overview. I want to talk about a study.
Just give me a second. Go back, please, on the previous one.
Yeah, sure.
I think what they call apostle there, what we call advocates now.
Yeah, advocate.
Okay, so it's advocacy. And what
advocacy,
yeah. So what they call terrorists, I don't know what we call it now, but it's really the customers who are going to create damage for the company.
Absolutely.
And sometimes, you've done something that you intended, or you've done something wrong, but the terrorists are those people who will badmouth you. They'll write bad reviews. They'll tell everybody how horrible you are. And especially if you're Starbucks, Buhalis will say, don't go to Starbucks because they've got bad coffee and they're doing a bad job. Okay. So as far as Starbucks is concerned, I'm a terrorist for Starbucks because I badmouth them. I don't like them at all.
Okay. Thank you I'll never take you to Starbucks then. How about Costa Coffee?
Love it.
Or Pacific Coffee?
Love it.
Good. Okay. Now you'll notice in this little diagram before I move to the next one, I was going to go to the next one, is that even if the customers are towards being satisfied, they still may defect or be indifferent. You see that? And that means that being satisfied is not enough. So satisfaction is not enough in order to make customers loyal, right? So that's just the message there, simple message. We got this article published recently in the Journal of Hospitality Marketing and Management. The title is Does Brand Love Matter to Casual Restaurants? A Multi-Group Path Analysis. And there were 1, 2, 3, 4 of us on it. And it was a study that we did in China based upon 3 casual restaurant chains. And one of the chains included was Haidilao Hot Pot. And of course, I'm sure you have several of them in Hong Kong and Shanghai. And it's hot pot offer with a lot of really good service features.
Alastair, is this the company where you go and if you're alone, they give you a teddy bear so you're not alone, right? Hey!
Yeah, things like that. And if you have to wait in the ladies, if they have to wait to get a table, they'll do manicures and give you board games and free snacks. And they have performances with noodles making and things like this. So it's a really interesting concept they have, and it's very successful in mainland China, in Hong Kong, Macau, in all across the world now, Haidilao. Anyway, we were interested in the concept of brand love. That's what we were looking at. Usually when we talk about loyalty, scholars at least talk about it, they talk about value. And first of all, you have to give people the feeling of value. And if you give them the perception of value, that will create satisfaction. And although I said it, if people are satisfied, there's a better probability that they become loyal. So this value, satisfaction, loyalty chain has been tested in many, many hospitality and tourism research studies. And there is a direct relationship between value, satisfaction, and loyalty. Now, we were interested in how does brand love fit in, because Haidilao has customers who really love this brand. And I know my family really loved this brand. And there were 2 other brands in here as well that we looked at. So we're interested in this idea of brand love. And what we found out was that brand love is the outcome of excellent perceived value and a high level of satisfaction. So, we did some quantitative analysis, and we showed that there was a positive relationship between perceived value, high levels of satisfaction, and brand love. And in fact, we found that brand love was more important than perceived value and satisfaction in inspiring revisit intentions. In this case, we were measuring the willingness to revisit the restaurant chain in this case. And that's an indicator of loyalty, revisit intention. So, however, we also found that the importance of brand love varied according to certain segments of the market. We found that for the female respondents, it was more important that they were attached in a way to Haidilao and the other 2 chains. It was more important to Generation Xers, and it was more important to people with higher incomes. So we felt that we filled a gap in the literature by including brand love in this value, satisfaction, loyalty framework. So somewhere in these 3 things, value, satisfaction, loyalty, you should also put brand love. That's what we found. So anyway, so there's more than just the value and the satisfaction. Now, Professor asked me about how do I define stakeholders in tourism, and I'm going to ask you a question about this. I define them as 5 groups: visitors or the guests, the tourism sector organizations, if you like, the community, the local community, the environment, and government. So you see the different breakdowns there. So my question for you is this, it's an important question. If these are the stakeholders, and Professor Buhalis defined this as people who are directly or indirectly affected by your business or your organization, are all stakeholders also customers of hospitality and tourism organizations? A simple question. Two potential answers, yes, no. You can say, I don't know, or maybe.
Hello, Professor. I think for the stakeholder, they may be the customer for the hospitality industry, but they are not necessarily must be the customers.
So, yeah, I mean, that's a very literal definition of a customer. But what about a hotel that's sitting in somewhere in Hong Kong, on the island or in Kowloon side, and the community that surrounds it? Are the community that surround it not customers, whether they use the hotel or not? Not a hard question. You are master's students, aren't you? So you're able to think. So the community that surrounds, the community that surrounds the airport, for example, are they customers?
I think answer gonna be yes, because they need to at least experience something, then they can do the decision.
That's a good answer. Yeah, I think they are. When you take a very broad definition of customer, not the very narrow one, all of these stakeholders, including the environment, which is a silent stakeholder in many ways, are really a type of customer that we have to think about building relationships with them. Each one of them, the visitors, the organizations, the community, the environment, and government. So we should build relationships. That's where, you know, we go back to the old public relations kind of idea, building and maintaining positive relationships with different groups. So yeah, we do have a core of customers, the guests, customers who make the cash register ring, or not, that's the old saying, but we have a broader group if we're in tourism and hospitality, and particularly when you're a Hong Kong Tourism Board, potentially everybody is your customer. Right? So I want you to get that idea that stakeholders are important. Now, for example, this is a very lovely Club Med in Antalya in Turkey. And Club Med has had some real public relations issues with surrounding communities because they were known, these all-inclusive resorts, they were known as enclaves, if you like, in the American way, or enclaves in the French way. And what that means is the guests would come there, have a great time, spend all their money there, and not leave the grounds at all, not leave and interact with the local community. And so Club Med had a real problem with this, real issue with this. In other words, it wasn't reaching out to the local community as treating them as sort of a customer. However, they realized that, and as did other all-inclusive resorts, and they've started to do more community outreach, more education, more training, more work with the children in the nearby communities to try and make it so that they don't, they're not seen as just an enclave where they take foreign visitors in, earn money, and then send that money back to France or wherever. China these days for Club Med. So that is an idea here that our customers are actually pretty broad. Now, I'm getting to the end here, Professor. I like to look at this in terms of the advice model. And this goes for a hotel or a theme park or airline or an airport or whatever. There is an authority, that's the government, there's a destination, there's a visitor, there's an industry, the environment. The authority is the various government agencies. The destination is the DMO, Destination Management Organization. the visitors, the leisure and business visitors, industries, the tourism stakeholders, the communities, the resident quality of life, and other impacts, and the environments, the natural and cultural resource protection. And in the middle is the community. Okay, so I think we need to have a very broad view of CRM, and particularly in tourism, and maybe a little bit more limited when you get to talking about restaurants and hotels, but still there, that you have to think about all of these 6 parts, and particularly the community as being customers at some level. And community engagement is very, very important. So why are community residents important to hospitality and tourism organizations? Question for you.
I think they can have a great impact in your business. I worked for a resort before and supporting the community through maintaining the nature around healthy, safely for them, and also supporting the business. It was key for, I would say, like good publicity within the country.
Where are you from?
I am from Peru.
Peru. Wow, you're a long way from home. Okay, great. That was a very good answer. You know, the bottom line in one way is that in many countries, the people vote. They have votes. They vote for political parties. And if they're not happy with what the tourism businesses and the hospitality business are doing, they vote for the parties who will pull them up. But apart from that, we have to look at it that we're not only serving the people that come into our hotel or restaurant or fly with us, we're also serving the residents of the community. And I'm sure that somewhere along the line, you're going to hear about over-tourism in many cities of the world, and the importance of taking into consideration the community residents. So I just want to say that, and that's the steps in community resident engagement. Summary. Here we are. I want to say that what I've tried to say to you tonight is hospitality and tourism organizations have many different types of customers, not just one type or one level, or one layer. It's multi-layered. There have been 2 eras in CRM, CRM1, CRM2, and there may even be in CRM 3 or 4 by now. Personalization is the key to CRM, whether it's online or in a traditional way. Personalization is very, very important. And I want to say also, China is different. I gave you the reasons. Don't forget about brand love. And think about all the potential stakeholders, not just the direct customers. So I think those are 6 main points that I made tonight. And any questions for me, either from the professor?
Thank you very much, Alastair. That's fantastic. And can I reiterate something? And I think,
yeah,
when you look into the community, you remember what we've been saying. We have been talking about creating value. And I've been saying co-creating value for everybody, right?
Yes.
Because I've been saying to you that if we do not co-create value for everybody, what you create is conflicts. And this is what Alastair was saying a minute ago, right? So if you've got the local community being in conflict with the tourists, sooner or later, that situation will create problems. And if you create problems, what's going to happen next? We're going to have diminishing value. Because I don't want to go out in a place where the locals are not friendly. I don't want to be a tourist in a place where the locals do not like me to be there. I'll tell you an example. You know, Hagen Song suggested the restaurant to me, where we went with Jerry and with Abigail. And he said to me, there's a great restaurant that they're doing dim sum and Beijing duck and different things in that place. So we went to this place and had the most unfriendly receptionist I've ever seen. And I was almost very tempted to go away, but Then I thought, Jerry is a big guy, and Abigail was nice. And I said, okay, nothing's going to happen. Let's go and try their food. And we had a fantastic night. Their food was very good, I think. But we had a problem of communication. So the first lady, who was not speaking any English, she didn't really want us there. I felt really unwanted. But then the guy who, I don't know who he was, whether he was the manager or the owner of the restaurant, came along and he was very friendly, spoke a little bit of English. We spoke a little bit of not Mandarin or Cantonese, but we kind of said, I like this duck, and some of the other stuff. And we had a fantastic time. So, one thing, community is part of the product because it is generating the experience, right? And the second thing that increasingly we kind of see is that tourists do not like to be categorized as tourists. They are effectively temporary residents. Okay. They are there for a short period of time.
Yeah.
And if you see what Airbnb says, live like a local.
Live like a local.
Yeah. So what's happening is that increasingly what we see is that tourists are not these external people who are coming in, I've got my needs and I need to satisfy them. But there are people who avail the opportunity to come in and experience what's happening. So a lot of nice people and a lot of nice colleagues have invited me for lunch or dinner in Hong Kong. And I say to them, look, please let's go to a place where you'll go with your local cousin. Please don't take me to Intercontinental. I've been to many Intercontinentals in my life and I quite like them, but I really want to see how local people live. And I do that everywhere. I do it in China, I do it everywhere. It's funny, I was in Mexico with Juan and I said to him, please let's go where you will go with your cousin. And he said, I cannot take you there. I said, why? Because he said, it's a canteen on the street and has got very nice tacos. I said, this is exactly where I'd like to go. Yeah. He said, the university will not allow me to take you there. I said, look, don't tell them. He said, they've given me money to take you to a nice 5-star restaurant. I said, okay, take your wife there tomorrow. So we went and had tacos on the street and it was fantastic. It was the most wonderful experience. So what we would like to see is that the tourists would like to experience what the local guys they would like to do. And they would like to understand. But again, going back to segmentation, not all of us are the same, right? Depends on how much experience you have got, how much you have traveled. You know, with Alastair, we've traveled quite a lot together in different places, and we'll always escape and we'll go to different places. And we'll find what the local guys are doing and how they are playing. And we'll be part of the community, respect the community. This is really important. Sometimes your culture, value, taste, and everything is very different from the local community. But you've got to respect it. You've got to try it and you've got to engage. Sometimes you say, no, I was telling them that I cannot eat chicken feet. I can eat a lot of different Chinese food, but I'm not going to have chicken feet. I'm sorry, I'm not. Okay, but I'll have something else. You like chicken feet? No, she doesn't. But I'll go for a hot pot and Sichuan food, and everything's going to turn numb here. But that's something I kind of learned how to.
Professor, do you like ma or la?
You got me there, mate.
Well,
spicy.
Have the class tell you the difference between ma and la, because I like ma, but la is hard in my stomach.
Mild, numb.
Numbing. And la is hot, spicy, chili.
Look, I don't know what happens every time, but I get ma.
Yeah. Now, Professor, I just want to do a couple of advertisements here, if I could.
Okay, go on.
These, you started off when I joined you at 6:30 talking about the books I did. And so here's a collage of the books. And I know you've done many yourself. So, but I've been trying recently to get some interesting backgrounds in terms of tourist destinations. And the one in the top left is Bagan in Myanmar. The World Tourism Cities is, of course, London and Westminster. I'll jump the one there. The tourism system is Ha Long Bay in Vietnam. The Rutledge Hamburg Tourism Cities is, of course, Pudong in Shanghai. Global Marketing China Tourism is actually Lake Tai or Tai Hu. And the other two were picked by the publishers and they're kind of generic. Second advertisement is on October 31st, where is World Cities Day. We've had World Tourism Day on the 27th of September. And we're having a webinar called Better Tourism, Better Life, October 31st. Invite you to come along 11 to 1 o'clock GMT and free webinar. And that's me. That's a great view of Hong Kong. I love Hong Kong. I'm very jealous of you, Professor Buhalis. Every minute I've spent in Hong Kong has been fabulous. There is my my code if you want to see my CV. So thank you very much for allowing me to talk to the class. I very much enjoyed it and the interaction with yourself and with Jerry and with the students. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alastair. I really appreciate your contribution. And hopefully Hong Kong is going to open the border. So before I go, you should visit them. We should do the normal things which we do, but I'm not going to say what we do.
Okay, great. Well, I'll stop the share here. And
thank you very much.
Leave you for the wrap up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, where are we? I haven't given you a break. Any questions? And the online people, any questions? I'll let Alastair take more time because, and one of the reasons why I've asked Alastair to join us is because he understands China very well and he understands it from a Western perspective, which is very interesting because if you are from your own perspective, you don't see things. But if you see it from outside, you see things in a different way. And I think when you go back to China, or those of you who have traveled, you'll see things differently. And it's called the second cultural shock. So when I went back to Greece after doing my master's, I could see the place in a very different way. Okay. And I think one of the main advantages that you get when you travel is you kind of see different things. You know what I do quite often? When I walk around, and I walk around a lot in Hong Kong and everywhere, I go to the supermarket and I look to what people are doing in the supermarket. And I get so many ideas. And I think last time I was in anybody from Dalian? Dalian, no? Is Hippo a national supermarket chain? This hippopotamus kind of, it's called Hippo. It may be called something else, but had the hippo as a logo. It's a supermarket chain, and it had. So what was really shocking for me and very interesting was that you were going fishing, live fish. You were catching it, weighting it. You have no idea what I'm talking about, right? So you've got this fish pond, big place. You catch your fish. You give it to the guys. They grill it, boil it, steam it, whatever. You pay them 20 yuan. And then they've got the